time for a special Sunday morning edition of Community Forum. And we're very lucky to have with us live in the studios this morning, Christos Giovanopoulos. Christos Giovanopoulos is from Greece and a founding member of the group Solidarity for All. He has been politically active in the student movement, the anti-globalization and anti-war movements, both in Greece and abroad, and he was active in the communication group of the Sigma Square People's Assembly. He also works as a chief editor in the radical left publication house A Synacia, and he is co-editor of the book Democracy Under Construction, From the Streets to the Squares. Christos, thank you very much for coming in and spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Mike, for having me here.
So start out, tell us, what brings you to Seattle?
Actually, an invitation that I received from American activists and Greek activists in the U.S. That they would like to they would like to organize a Solidarity for All info tour throughout the U.S. to inform the American people about the grassroots self-organized solidarity movement in Greece, which is one of the most positive, let's say, developments of the resistance of the Greek people against the crisis.
So tell us more about your organization, Solidarity for All. How did it come about?
Yeah. Solidarity for All was created in September 2012. But it is not Solidarity for All that created the Solidarity movement. And this is something interesting as a different method of organizing a movement, or how a movement gets organized itself. The grassroots solidarity movement, it was an offshoot, let's say, or a kind of an offspring of the squares occupation movement that occurred in the summer of 2011, the Greek Indignados movement. Which went in parallel with the Spanish Indignados movement. And this was a huge movement that almost 30% of the Greek population, according to official estimates, that took part in this movement. And was organized in people's assemblies in the central squares of the cities, usually outside the governmental buildings. For example, the Syntagma Square, which I was part in its People's Assembly, it was just outside the parliament in Greece. And Syntagma means constitution, so let's say it was the Constitution Square. And what we demanded, it is that to remove those people that they have signed the bailout agreements with the Troika, without considering and without consulting the Greek people. And we wanted, to be part, to decide about the future of this, of our society. And this experience was important because it popularized practices of self-organization, of horizontal decision-making processes, like assemblies, that everybody stands on an equal level, even bypassing what I call the specialists of resistance, however radical they are. People they wanted to be on an equal basis, either, regardless of what they believed, what was their ideology, etc. They want to come together, so they create this common agora, we say, this public agora, this common space to organize, discuss about matters and organize themselves. So when this movement finished or retreated from the central squares and it went to the neighborhoods, then the solidarity actions started in order either to block the implementation of the austerity measures and the restructuring programs, or to counter the acute effects and results of the crisis and the austerity and the kind of the shock doctrines, that have been imposed in Greece. So by the end of 2011, early 2012, we had solidarity groups starting emerging everywhere, organizing solidarity clinics and pharmacies, solidarity free classes, after-school classes for kids, solidarity food banks and kitchens without middlemen movement, which is a very important movement because it connects direct producers, farmers or other direct producers with the consumers, bypassing the official, the middlemen, okay, that they keep the prices high even under in the context of crisis, and this was a win-to-win situation, but because both the farmers, they benefited more, and the consumers they benefited also by buying good quality local production in cheaper prices than in the supermarkets. And then we have, slowly the movement started developing even further, and now we have also the last 1.5 years the foreclosure stop campaign, where groups of people they go and they stop the auctioning of houses. We have the cooperative economy, a new wave of self-organized, self-managed cooperative economies, with the best example, a recuperated factory that does cleaning stuff in Thessaloniki, the second largest city in Greece, and also solidarity groups within the working spaces, organized by workers in struggle, because unfortunately in Greece the trade unions, they don't have any support mechanisms even for their own members. And you imagine in a country that has got officially 26% of unemployment, okay, this is not having any support structures and being thrown out of the social security system. You cannot cope with your everyday needs. So part of the development of this movement, it was Solidarity for All. Because Solidarity, it was created by activists in this movement, that we thought that if we want to make a change, this movement needs to understand itself as a movement and not as an individual fragmented kind of actions of solidarity and resistance in their own kind of neighborhoods. So our first step, it was a very simple one, just to map down and to put on the map really, how many self-organized solidarity structures existed. And we found out that in September 2012 there were 180. Now they have been doubled. By doing that, we created this common space, and we tried to create the common tools, either digital tools or physical tools, or to produce brochures and leaflets or texts that they could share, the people, the know-how. And we created the Solidarity for All, with number, solidarityforall.gr, where these different groups, separate groups, that could come together and they can inform the public, and they can inform what they need or what help what help they provide. And it's important that this movement, everyone is volunteer and everything is for free. And then why we decide to name it Solidarity for All is exactly because we wanted to distinguish ourselves from the nationalists, that they were doing supposedly solidarity only for Greeks, okay, or from the state, that they were saying, yeah, we will provide some social services, but with kind of, we want your tax form, etc. So still they introduced a process of discrimination, because we know that the tax forms that don't reflect the reality of that the people live in. So this is how Solidarity for All came about. And also the last important thing is that because this movement, it was part of the political struggle to undo, let's say, to topple down the political system, this corrupted political system that brought the bailouts in Greece, and decided to sacrifice, the rights of the Greek people for the banks and for the elites, both national, the Greek elites, and the international, the Germans and the French and the American banks. Okay, so this this movement it converged with this political change in Greece that brought Syriza into power, and Syriza recognized that. And the breakthrough of Syriza, after the breakthrough of Syriza in June 2012, one of the first decisions that Syriza did, it was to organize a solidarity fund, or a fund for the solidarity initiatives, where each Syriza parliamentarian donates every month 10% of his or her wage to this solidarity fund. And this solidarity fund, it is available to all the self-organized solidarity structures that they they want to access it. And I have to say that Solidarity for All, it is also it has got the access, it's like the liaison organization between the solidarity groups, the grassroots groups, and this fund. But we are completely autonomous in terms of decision-making process. We have our own assembly, weekly assembly, and this is where all the decisions are made. And similarly, as all the solidarity structures that they have their own assemblies, and it is they're only responsible, and this assembly is the only responsible to make decisions about themselves. So even if we can, solidarity structures can enjoy this money, can have access to this money, Syriza or even not Solidarity for All, we cannot intervene in their decision-making processes. Okay, because we believe that to be political autonomous is one of the conditions that enable people to be politically active and on the top of their decisions, and not be independent. We don't want to replicate this system of clientelism and all that stuff.
So it's a very grassroots response to what was a top-down, and what still continues to be a top-down structure.
Yeah, definitely. And this is why another aspect important of this movement is the issue of democracy. So when we speak about austerity, we don't speak only about that people, accordingly to OECD, for example, that 70% of the Greek, 17% of the Greek people, they cannot meet their food needs. Okay. In a country that you think belongs to Europe, to the developed Europe, or that 3 million people, almost 30% of the Greek population, doesn't enjoy access to the social security system or to the public healthcare services, which is higher than what is going on in this country, in the US. And this happened only in a period of kind of 3-4 years because of the austerity measures. So it's not only out of necessity. This is the first kind of the shock, let's say, how people react to the shock. And because we had this pool of close-knit social relationships in Greece, because as a society, we still have got large families, extended family structures, neighborhoods still exist, they have their own life, and this proximity of the people, of the lives of the people, it helps to build solidarity between each other. But this was projected in the larger political conflict, let's say, in the deepening of the neoliberalism, and the discontent and the outrage that the people felt against the politicians that they believed in, and they were voting for all those years, and the people took the initiative to wage these political struggles between 2010 2012, and the people imposed their own discourse. So if we had the trade unions or the left parties, and I'm a lefty, but we have to be honest and self-critical, okay? To try to impose an agenda, we have to fight for wages, we have to fight for pensions, etc., etc. The people, despite the fact that they took on the streets for these very same reasons, to protect their wages and pensions, etc., but they didn't demand those. They demanded a political change. They demanded to topple down this, the political system that dominated Greece after the fall of the dictatorship. Okay, so this movement, it is a grassroots movement, but at the same time, it is a very political movement, and it gets it is part. And it is a political agent of the political development in Greece, but of a different sort. But at some point, you need to put somebody on top, and so this is why it was this convergence between the radical left of Syriza that expressed with the party of Syriza and this movement, and the majority of when this movement started, we could say the majority of the activists there they belonged to the social left, so there were left people that they didn't belong to any party, but now we can say that the majority of those people, they have joined or they support, openly kind of Syriza. Yet this doesn't change how the solidarity structures function as an open, autonomous, a different public sphere, we can say, from below, from the grassroots, that they're open to the communities and to anyone, but the racists and the nationalists.
So they self-organize at the local community level as to who will participate in each individual cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's interesting that you paint this movement that it is like the grassroots political solution. I think here in the U.S., when people hear about political, they perceive political as going to a voting booth and supporting one of the two political parties or the third political parties that are so powerless in this country.
No, because of the crisis, those things, as I said earlier, became very obvious to the people what this two-party system that we had in Greece meant. Okay. And because of the crisis, this political, it became very obvious that both systems, let's say the Social Democrats, PASOK, which is the equivalent of the Democratic Party here, and the Conservatives, Nea Demokratia, which is the equivalent of the Republicans here, it became very obvious that they stood for for the same things, and they protected the interests, of the Greek rich people, the wealthy, and not only the Greek, but also their European or international kind of American counterparts. Okay, and people were alienated from their political bonds they had, and they didn't have any options, or the options they had, they were either to turn one against the other, okay, or to do something altogether in order to build, to resist, to support themselves and build the basis for a different future. And I think our intervention as activists there, it was exactly to highlight or create these spaces and these tools that the people could come together. Because the people, they were angry, okay, they were desperate for a solution, but what is the solution? Is not something. Is not ready. The solution is not ready. You have to create it. And even now, a very important thing of this movement is that it is very inventive, and it is inventive exactly because it moves out of the box. It doesn't go with preconditions or with ticking the boxes of what is a revolutionary and what is not a revolutionary. It paves the way by doing things. But at the same time, it realizes exactly that what is important, it is to have the power also to compete in the same level, let's say, your opponent. Okay, so this is why in Greece, this movement, especially the solidarity, the grassroots solidarity movement, a peculiarity that has got, and I think this kind of a leap forward from previous movements, it is that does not play this, does not work with this dichotomy between the social movements against, the political power. Okay, it tries to merge both by changing both. Okay, by rooting in the grassroots the political struggle, and also by wanting to remove those from power and dismantle the power towards, the basis. And I think you can see some examples, and we got some imagination, and also with the problems that this has some reflections on that, from the Latin American experiences and the structural transformations that you have to do in the level of the state. For example, in my opinion, we have to rephrase the issue of power in that sense. So the question, I think we ask the wrong question, if we have to take the power or not to take the power. I think the question should be, how can we build power? the power that we built, not somebody else has built it for different reasons, for their own interest, to take this power. You cannot use this power without changing it. So, but this is a secondary process. I mean, not a secondary, it's primary, but you cannot change it without having built your own power. So I think this is the transformative contribution and potential. Okay, because still it is potential. It is tangible, the solidarity movement, but its political potential hasn't been materialized yet. But it gives us hope, that we can make it.
And with Syriza having to, it seems very soon, make a decision as to dump the Troika and Greece to go on its own. It would seem this fertile ground that you are creating with these 380 organizations will be critical. Will be a critical feedback loop for Syriza itself to be able to make that decision. Yeah. So, what are you seeing here in the near future?
First of all, I hope that Syriza will do this break and will stand firm against the pressures and the blackmails, because as a government is not being in the government, even a left party, you have to open up a different process, and you don't make politics as if you were a trade union fighting against the cuts of some job positions. Okay, you have to consider different things and larger geopolitical issues, etc. And I don't say this in order to justify a realistic turn of Syriza, but in order to highlight that what a left government should do, or a left movement or a party should do as a government in the position of being in the office, it is exactly to provide the spaces and the tools for the self-organization of the society. So to change the idea of how we think about politics, even in on the state level. And I think this is where the contribution of the solidarity movement it is important, because we have this movement has developed different practices that can be turned into policies. And this is important because the creation of this, what is the zeitgeist, what is in the mind, the mindset of the activists in this movement is not to create kind of what the anarchists say, temporary autonomous zones, okay, or to create alternatives to the mainstream, etc. We want to be the mainstream. We want to change the general conditions of inequality and injustice. We don't want to be kind of pockets of resistance or pockets of a paradigmatic different way of how to organize society. No, we want to organize society differently. Okay, so this is where the personal connects with the individual. The personal connects with the with the collective, the individual problem with the problem of the country, and also the social, being socially active, with the political struggle for change. And in the case that it's gonna be, the developments will bring, a split or kind of harder conditions with regarding the economic situation in Greece, the social effects of that, or a Grexit or a Graxident, however they call it. I think this movement can lays down the basis on which you can build different alternatives. But at the same time, this movement does not suffice on its own. Now we know that we are complementary of another different, we're complementary to a larger processes where other movements also, and including the political struggle in the central political scene, let's say, is taking place. But also as a government, even if Syriza even if we don't have a Grexit and a split, Syriza and the government would not have the money to organize and pave the way, of a different public policies based on state funding. Okay, so even in that case, this movement can contribute in building alternative ways that a government that wants to build outside of the framework of the bailouts and the memorandum, different kind of ways of doing things, still, the practices of this movement can be of use. So I don't know which way it will go. We will have a radical split, and then this movement will be on the center of organizing, the society, or it will be a kind of a different, more hybrid kind of and contradictory process of change.
So instead of pockets of resistance, you're looking at creating the fabric of resistance here. And you're going to be speaking in, we only have a few minutes left, you're going to be speaking here in Seattle at a couple different venues and talking about the possibilities of helping to weave this fabric here in the U.S. as well?
Actually, what I forgot to tell about this movement, and it was a part of their more general support, let's say, or effects of the resistance of the Greek people, is that this movement also tries to integrate itself in the building international solidarity movement, international networks between all the resistance movements. So we have many dozens of solidarity groups with Greece outside Greece. And it's paradoxical, but not unexplainable, to say that the majority of those solidarity with Greece groups, they are in Germany. Okay, and so this movement has provided kind of hope, to other people also, and this is a result, that people, American journalists from The Nation, The New Yorker, Rolling Stone, amongst others, that they came into Greece during the elections. They found out this movement, and they were journalists, but also activists, mainly in the Occupy, etc. And they organized, they set up this Solidarity for All tour in the U.S. in order to bring together, the American experience and the Greek experience, and to build solidarity groups here and a solidarity campaign to support the grassroots solidarity movement in Greece. So we have it's gonna be launched very soon, a crowdfunding campaign, and also probably there will be set up solidarity groups in New York, probably Baltimore and Oakland, and we'll see in Seattle, and then I go also to Chicago, and I'll see how the situation is there. I hope there too. So they will create a sort of network here too of this movement.
And your organization has a website?
Yeah, it is solidarityforall.gr, 4 with number. Okay. Everybody, whoever wants to contact us, they can do it directly through the website.
So with that, we are unfortunately out of time. I want to thank you very much for coming in and spending time with us.
No, it was my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me and having me with you.